Corinna Jane. I've just been interviewed by Keith Andrew. We definitely covered a lot of topics, and it's definitely not the simple things in life. We've definitely put the world to right. And
for people who want to know what is the KeithAndrewNetwork, the whole point of my talk show is to show you that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. To prove to them, I still amount to something. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the KeithAndrewNetwork. It is episode 1045. That is right, 1045. This is being aired on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all social medias. If you have social medias, you can guarantee it will be up and ready. I have my filter glasses on because it goes with my shirt. Also, I blink too much. Hint of the show, talk show host with a disability. Might as well use it instead of hide it. With that being said, as you heard from the recommendation, we have a beautiful guest here live from the United Kingdom. Thank you for being on Monday. Thank you for being a guest on the KeithAndrewNetwork. It's an honor and a privilege, and thank you for being here. I appreciate that.
well, thank you for having me. It's gosh, it's amazing, isn't it? It's like we're in the same room, except for you're about a good 1,000 or more miles away across the Atlantic Ocean. Well, about 5,000 miles away, rather.
No, absolutely. Now, don't mind me. I'm distracted by your beauty. And I know if you were here in person, you would probably smack me upside the head. It's like, stop working, be serious. But
oh, it's very charming.
I appreciate it. It's funny. I can flirt with women, but I'm still single. Go figure on that.
I just haven't found the right one, that's all.
That's true. So it's going to be freedom of speech, self-expression. You can ask me anything you want, talk about anything you want. I have no cards up my sleeve. And the first question I want us to know, and our viewers want to know, is tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Corinna Jane, and I am a singer-songwriter and a presenter, amongst other things as well. But those are my predominant career paths, if you like. So I'm a piano-driven singer-songwriter, and my background's really in travel presenting and red carpet, doing film premieres and that kind of thing, really. I'm here from the UK, but I was actually born in Germany. I had a French mother and I have a British father, so I got a bit of all corners of Europe residing in me. And yeah, I was brought up with English, French, and German under my belt. And yeah, I've dabbled in all sorts of things in the creative entertainment world, so to speak. So I think that is me in a nutshell, really.
No, absolutely. So the first one, I'm going to add top 15, but I'm going to throw one in for you. Would you be interested in doing like an international talk show with me? And you are an international talk show host / singer. I think that'd be really good to add to your resume.
Of course, it's just really about various different obligations and things that are coming through. So it's always a question of time and opportunity. But you know, in principle, it's a good idea, of course.
No, absolutely. I don't want to impose on you. I do apologize, but I'm always looking to expand the KeithAndrewNetwork and work with upcoming people. You help me, I help you. But you also mentioned you were on the red carpet. That's something I've been struggling with. You have the looks, you have the beauties, of course, you have the brains. How did you get on the red carpet? And for people who want to follow in your footsteps, what are some of your tips about being on the red carpet?
Well, truthfully, and this is where I get a little bit mystical, which is not unlike me. A lot of my friends call me Mystic Coco because of just the way I sort of look at things in the world. But I actually fell into red carpet presenting almost entirely by accident. You know, I was in London. I'd moved to London And there was this one particular night where my friend and I thought we might go to a Taylor Swift concert last minute, except for we didn't do that. And long story short, she said that her sister knew of this party going on in London where there might be people in a similar kind of world and industry to me, and it could be quite useful. And lo and behold, in the first 5 minutes of being there, I met Mark from the Fan Carpet, who I do the red carpet interviews with, and AJ, who's since gone on to do lots of music videos with me, my music videos. And but the thing is that I just got talking to Mark, and he just thought I'd be quite. He knew about my presenting background as we were speaking, but he just thought I'd be quite good at doing some of the red carpet stuff, and just basically gave me the opportunity to just give it a go. And I did, and I just kept on doing it, really. And I think there's no sort of secret formula. I mean, that was definitely one of those being at the right place at the right time sort of thing. And ironically, there's lots of things I chase in life, lots of ideas of success or things I want to achieve in life. And funny enough, some of the best things that have happened to me are also the very things I didn't go chasing, but seem to have found me. And that definitely was one of them. So if I were to give any advice on a more practical, logical level, rather than throwing all the mystical stuff at you, I would simply say it is about going to the places where you could be networking with such people. I think it's also about being able to create some kind of reel or show or a video piece that showcases that ability, and just to simply put it out there and get it seen by the right people, and just not go chasing it in such a way that makes you seem desperate, but rather let it come to you through just being in the right circles. And yes, online networking is very, very useful tool, but I think there's still something to be said about face-to-face conversations and just these people you just happen to meet, I think.
It's funny you should mention that. A lot of people say, it's about being in the right place, the right time. Eventually it will happen, but for me anyway. But you need to put yourself out there, to hand up the show. I'm the talk show host with a learning disability. Well, for the longest time, I'm 35. Yeah, I'm not saying I'm old or anything, but when
Not at all. Still in your prime.
so 16 years ago, I used to hide behind my disability. I used to say, "Oh, I'm embarrassed," or "I'm this." But one day, I was like, "You know what? I call it the boomerang because you throw it. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. People will feel sorry for me." But when the boomerang comes back in the opposite way, you whack yourself upside the head if you don't catch it. But you whack yourself upside the head saying you just labeled yourself as an influence. Say you don't have to do this. You don't have to go do certain things that other people do. You expect things to be handed to you. And I talk with my hands, of course I have it. But
I
you
do.
expect but you expect things to be, handed to you, but you want people to take you seriously. You need to kick yourself in the ass. I bet you agree with this. You need to kick yourself in the ass saying, you know what? I want to work the red carpet. I want to be a great professional singer, but you are. You need to be your own cheerleader saying, you got it. You feel the energy. And I feed off positive energy. I love your energy. I feed off it. People say, "What do you mean by feeding off energy?" Well, you're bubbly, you're upbeat, you make jokes, you're lively. There's other people where I interview are like, "Okay, well, tell me about yourself." Um, you know, I'm good.
Wasting everyone's time, really, isn't it?
Yes. And as soon as someone, I can give me an example. First question I want to ask you is what attracted you to begin your career as a professional actress? If you just said, like, "Oh, I like to sing." Okay. I'm like, then what are we doing here? Because anyone who watches and reads the comments, like, he really doesn't give a damn about being here. But if you're energetic, you're upbeat. I'm a big wrestling fan, like The Rock, The Miz. I want to be interactive. You feed off positive energy. If you're gonna sit here, with a thumb up your ass, then it's kind of like what are you doing?
But absolutely, I completely agree with you. Definitely about feeding off positive energy. I think if you're somebody creative, which you clearly are, and obviously that's my field is to be creative. I think you are naturally a much more sensitive person, and you have to be, because if you're not a sensitive person, if you're not someone who can sense the energy around you, you can't possibly either connect with people, and you can't, also in my case, create things or create beautiful music or whatever it is you want to create. So if you are an artistically inclined person, you have to absorb the energy. Now, of course, sometimes some of the most beautiful things we create are things that stem out of negativity, or we try and change the negativity to something positive simply by what we're creating, or a community of people. You know, we're naturally programmed to want to shift through that energy. But having said that, you know, if I'm around people that are negative and depleted, I become negative and depleted very quickly, you know. And it's like, if you are feeding, like you say, feeding off the energy, you know, for me, that's what I get in my audience. You know, the thing that makes me the most satisfied, feel alive, the thing that makes me feel most purposeful, not just to myself or others, is when I'm performing. And I've just spent the best part of the last year on cruise ships, actually, being a singer pianist. And I had underestimated, actually, just how much me just singing at the piano and singing different songs was very important emotionally to a lot of the passengers that came and found me and connected and come night after night. And they would say things like that, you know, one of the comments I'll never forget was, "Thank you for making this cruise wonderful for us. We consider ourselves as misfits and we communicate through music. And what you gave us was really a gift." And of course, I was very tearful when they told me this, because you start to see the energy, the flow of energy in the world, that we all, if we feel purposeful, it's not because we're just doing it for ourselves and our egos, because we know that the thing that brings us joy, which it has to bring us joy first, because otherwise how could we share something so passionate, so intimate, if it doesn't bring us joy? But if it brings other people joy or some comfort, and you know you're doing a job right. So when you're talking earlier about, you go off, you do your thing, it's this boomerang that you cast out and you're not expecting anything, but it comes back in return. It's because what you're doing is you're providing an inspiration to people and you're providing connection. And when they come back to you, it's you've given them a gift and yourself a gift in the same way, I guess.
No, absolutely. And don't worry, I have that effect on people. A lot of people are like, you invite people to be on your show. No one wants to hear you talk. They want to hear the guest talk. I'm still working on it. It's 10 and a half years, but I'm still trying to feed off, give myself 2 minutes of speaking, but it's about the guests. But anyway.
Well, no, a good talk show host is one who always talks as well. I mean, look at the greats like Jay Leno and people like that. You know, they are the character that people want to see as well. You know, it's you're not doing the news, are you? You're not on CNN or something. You're here doing an entertaining show, so everyone wants to hear you talk, and you've got some interesting things to say. So never apologize for that.
No, I agree. So the first one I want to ask you brought up an interesting subject. You mentioned you are a performer on cruise liners. What is that like? And do you get motion sickness?
Right. Well, cruise ships are crazy, crazy, crazy world. It is like nothing else you'll ever experience when you work on the cruise ship, because it's its own bubble. It's a little universe within itself, and a lot of the drama and a lot of the interesting things happen actually within the crew area. And I think people don't quite realize that, and it's a very strange place. It's almost like freshman year at college or something, but it's on a ship and with people of different ages. It's like a high intensity sort of way of working, but it's exciting. It's so exciting, in a different port every day. You're traveling. You have a turnaround of different passengers every 7 to 12 days or even shorter. You meet such fascinating people from around the world. You have these fascinating conversations, and that's with everyone, the crew, the passengers. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, with the performance side of things, you're providing a very unique kind of service that actually on land just doesn't have the same effect. I think a lot of people, they go on cruise ships, whether they're working there, whether they're going on holiday, they're there to escape something in their life. actually. And not a lot of people talk about that, but people, they kind of try to run away from themselves. But the irony is you can never quite run away from yourself. And I think people find a different side to themselves, sometimes a bit more liberated, a bit more free. If you're cruise ships, when it's over, you come back on land, and that little universe, that little bubble, it bursts. You're not part of it anymore. It's gone. That's it. But you carry very profound memories, and life moves so fast. 1 week will feel like 1 month. It's that kind of fast-paced life. And it's fun. I mean, do I get motion sickness? That was the other question. It depends, really. Like, not too badly, but actually, according to scientists, it's not that you get it or you don't get it. It actually depends on the weather conditions of what's happening. So some days you might get it, and other days not so much. But you always feel like a bit of a queasiness if the ship is going like this. But often in the Caribbean Sea, it's blissfully calm.
What were some of your favorite songs you like performing? Do you have any power ballads? Do you have any rock ballads?
Well, it's interesting because before doing cruise ships, I only really exclusively did my own songs. And I will, on the record, just say for me, the thing that's most important is performing my own songs, my own creations, and my own melodies and words. That's my biggest form of expression. So it's satisfying when you're playing one of your own songs and people don't realize it's one of your own songs and they're into it, and you're like, oh, it's one of my songs. And then they check you out online and they see that you don't just do cruise ships, you've done a whole load of other stuff. But in terms of the covers that I would play, and I had to learn like well over 100 plus covers to do the ships. I really intensely learned so many which I hadn't done before. I would really enjoy, and this is the thing I like to do the most. I like to take like a rock song, something that people don't expect, like this little blonde petite singer at the piano to do. And I like to take it, I like to make it my own, and I like to move people emotionally like that. So one of the favorite ones I like to do is Losing My Religion by R.E.M. I really like doing Creep by Radiohead. That's one that would always kind of, people, if they're walking around the atrium, they would stop because it's quite a powerful song. When you just hear it just at the piano and just a vocal melody, you realize what a great song it is because you can strip it back and it's just beautiful. Wicked Games, Chris Isaak, I love doing that. There's a lot of, it's almost like I forgot now. There are a lot of songs that people would be more inclined to hear from me than other songs. And I think it was definitely the emotional ones. Yeah.
Have you ever pulled a prank on anyone where you just want to mess with the audience? Like, for me, I don't want to be on a cruise ship during a thunderstorm. Not to put this in the back of your mind or anything, but don't go on a cruise ship after watching Poseidon. Number one. But hopefully that doesn't happen. But
I don't like horror films, so I'm good. I'm just
you're not missing anything. But like for an example, have you ever seen the song Hello Darkness, My Old Friend?
Oh, Sound of Silence. I would play that one all the time. It just reminded me, actually, if I'd thought a bit longer, then I would have definitely mentioned that song in the lineup. That was absolutely one of my favorite ones to play. But anyway, continue, yes.
Some of my favorites, it's Simon and Garfunkel. And it's funny in movies today, Guardians of the Galaxy, they use songs from the 60s and 70s and 80s. Let me ask you this. Do you think music today sucks? And that's why they use songs from the past? Or do you think, not saying all songs today suck, because there are some that are really good, like Disturbed did the remake of, I can completely butcher the name of the song, Hello Darkness, My Old Friend. Sound of Silence. Disturbed redid that song. It's really good.
Oh, it's great, that version. Absolutely, yeah.
But do you think, I'm not saying, when people think of music, you just like rap. Rap is not music, yo, what is up? Bitches and hoes. It's like, that's not music. It's like, okay, Eminem, I like Eminem, but you start from REO Speedwagon, Iron Maiden, Rush, Queen, Led Zeppelin. There's so many great bands, and I can't think of her name. Oh, Adele. Adele's really good, and then you start like going, it drops. It's kind of like, wait, you did the top 10, and then that's it. What about the top 20? So, what is your opinion about today's music?
Well, it's actually quite a complex theory. It's not that complex, but the theory that I have isn't so black and white as to say music today sucks and it didn't in the old days. Now, on a very superficial level, just looking purely at what's out there, if you just switch the radio on and then you think back to the greats, then of course, hands down, I'll say yes, the artists of yesteryears, particularly when pop music really got going in the second half of the 20th century, absolutely, it was all about killer melodies, fun, interesting lyrics, having a particular style. It defined what it is to be a pop star or a rock star and all these different things. But what we got to understand is not that we run out of music or that it's like it's bad music today. It's just the way we consume music is very different. So I don't believe that there's no good music anymore. I just don't think it's being heard. And this is the problem with that is it's complex, but it's simple at the same time. As in, we used to have a society that was like a monoculture. Like there's a very famous there's a famous blogger, he used to be a music lawyer back in the day, a guy called Bob Lefsetz, and I really like to read his blogs, and he actually talks about the fact that in the old days we had a monoculture. So you would gravitate to the radio, the TV, you'd watch MTV, you'd pick up the latest magazine, everyone would kind of gravitate to that, to know what was hot, to know what was cool, and everyone's aim of the game was get signed by a label, get signed by a label.
Right.
So of course a lot of good music would have been missed out at that point as well. But what's happened now is that the record labels are still in power, of course, but they don't have the same sort of power or interest that they used to, because what they do now is they go on TikTok, they see what's popular, they pump a load of money into it, they want to capitalize on the success you've already created yourself. They don't really want to spend any time like developing you as such, and then they will just kind of, you're like a cash cow, and if you're then not making them cash, they'll drop you just like that. So people find different ways of making money in music. So they go to the single licensing route. So they try and get their music on film and television. And it's more possible now for the non-major label artists, the independent artists, to be able to do that of any level. You know, if you've got a good song, it'll get picked up if you're going down the right channels. The problem is with Spotify, Spotify I think is a great tool. As a consumer, I love it. Of course, who's not going to love this like electronic jukebox, of course. But at the same time, the only downside with like Spotify is that we've created a playlist culture, and you quickly change a song if it doesn't float your boat in like a few seconds. You don't know where to begin, you don't know where to look, there's so much choice. So what then happens is we spread our tentacles out, and then everything gets a little bit lost in like this sort of kind of, I don't know how you say it, this sort of mixed salad of stuff that's available, and you're trying to pick out the bits you like in the salad, but you're not, it's quite difficult to do. And so I think it's not that we run out of good music, it's just not being heard, because musicians are also expected to do their own marketing these days, and there's all sorts of gurus online that try and tell you how to do that. It's very exhausting, it's not always effective, and it does mean that a lot of people get disillusioned. And for me, I've had various successes here and there, but I've had my moments where you kind of go, okay, well, what's the point in any of this? And then you have to come back to grassroots and go, okay, people want to hear you, they want to get some emotion out of you when you're performing, but where are my songs going to be heard? How am I going to get my best songs heard? And that is the killer question. So people copy each other now, and you run out of original ideas. There's so much music, so is it quite hard to be original now without being totally wacky? I think there is good music there. It's just not being heard. That's I think my more positive take on it.
No, you're right. I'm like I said, I'm a big wrestling fan. One of my favorite cartoons, and I will say this to the day I die, Dragon Ball Z. I love Son Goku and Prince Vegeta. Dragon Ball will always be one of my all-time favorite cartoons. Now, going back to the wrestling, you look at so many great storylines from the early 90s and even early 2000s. And then someone else, you come up with it, it's great. Now you have WWE copying Impact Wrestling, or All Elite Wrestling copying Impact or New Japan. They just copy each other. Like, I'm not saying you do it, but you may take inspiration or copy Britney Spears in a good way, of course, not the bad way. But you may take some inspiration. But it's really, how I'm dressed right now. 10, 20 years ago, or maybe 30, someone else already did what I'm doing. Not with a disability, but with the glasses and the shirt. So it's really hard to be original.
It's very true, yeah.
So the next one, I'll ask you top two questions, if I may.
Yeah.
With the pandemic, do you think it was a blessing in disguise? Because a lot of people say, I wish I can stay home and do nothing. Well, you obviously got that now. But hasn't this given you the time to sit back and reflect on your career and see life in a different point of view?
I have very mixed opinions, borderline controversial opinions on the whole lockdown phenomenon, because so the difference between the US and the UK is that we didn't just have lockdown in 2020, we also had lockdown in 2021. So we had the best part of, like, not exclusively 2 years, but a good chunk of 2 years in lockdown or some sort of restrictive lifestyle. So now when the lockdown first came about, there was like a novelty to it. It was like, oh, okay, in this country, the sun was really shining. We had this unexpected heat wave in April. We were there going, okay, we'll do this for 3 months. Yes, it's all a bit scary, but okay, we're at home. Great. And I decided I can just take the time now to just basically be entirely creative. I got myself on Twitch and I had got myself a little following. I was performing every day to a virtual audience and they really kept me going and I reached new people. And, it was like being on cruise ships, but virtually. I took a lot of time to do these creative projects that I wanted to do. So I think I said was I utilized my time effectively. But the thing is, you see, the irony is you think that lots and lots of time on your hands will yield really creative, productive results. And to a certain extent, if you know in your mind that you have 3 months and that at that point, 3 months, you'll be released, then you can keep going. But what happened here in this country is like, yeah, you're going to be released. Actually, no, sorry, we've got another 3 months. Oh, sorry, we've got another 3 months. We've got another 6 months now. So by the time we got to the second lockdown, 2021, I had enough, because at that point, I was trying to psych myself up into creative things, but I'd lost the social connection. I lost my sense of purpose. I lost my sense of place in the world, socially, creatively, and everything. And it's funny because the illusion is that time is a thing that will give you all the space to make what it is you want to make. But in actual fact, it's when you're busy, it's when things are a little bit chaotic, that's when you're feeling and living life. And that is when the most creative or interesting ideas come about. Now, of course, you need time to record things or make things happen. That is natural and normal. But you have too much of a good thing. And when you look at these studies now about, and I don't want to get too political, when you're starting to look at the studies as whether lockdowns are actually entirely effective, is what people are talking about now, you can start to build a little bit of resentment retrospectively, like I have, where I feel like I lost a lot of time where I could have been out in the world making stuff happen, and now I'm making up for lost time. So yes, in answer to your question, a time for reflection, a time for creativity, a time for kind of pointing your arrow in the direction you want to point it in and think about things, but also a real sad, bittersweet loss of time that you can never get back. And that is the reality.
I agree, see, I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But wrapping up our interview segment, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest. And the last question I do want to ask you, throw it in real fast. How can our fans and listeners get in touch with you?
Okay, so in order to find out more about me, you can visit my website, CorinnaJane.com. It's spelled Corinna. Well, I'm sure there's like spelling somewhere on this. And you'll just be linked to all the very relevant things, such as youtube.com/CorinnaJane, Instagram.com/CorinnaJane. You can find me on Facebook, Corinna Jane Music, and you can of course find me on Spotify and Amazon and all the other streaming platforms available. So yeah, definitely check it out if you fancy it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay tuned for Off the Air. If you're watching this, definitely check out Instagram. We do have a bonus episode we would do real fast. But wrapping up, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest. And I'm looking forward to part 2. Make sure to like, share, comment. Our goal is 100 views, and definitely stay tuned for part 2. But until we meet again, catch you later. Thank you, and have a good night.